Hi, this is Sarah Wells of Go Ask Your Mothers, the podcast. I'm back. I have like 6 different illnesses from my kids. You probably do too. Grab those Clorox wipes and your cold cup of coffee. We have a great episode ahead. Let's go.
Welcome to Go Ask Your Mothers, the podcast where motherhood meets advocacy and culture. I'm Sarah Wells, mom to 2, CEO, and champion for working parents. Here to break down the headlines, share viral moments, and deliver the tips every mom needs. Let's get to it.
All right, something that always gets us fired up is when people tell you what to wear or what not to wear. In this case, the headline comes from a meteorologist, Claire Anderson, that I read about. She had a viral social media post going on. One of the viewers of her show noticed that she is visibly or was visibly pregnant, showing her bump on air. How dare she? And wrote in that she should really wear some looser fitting clothing instead of showing off that bump. That bump was a distraction to people viewing and trying to get their weather forecast. Of course, she clapped back at this. She's pregnant. This is normal. She had on perfectly professional attire. Why does everyone feel like they have the right to comment on what you wear? Why is pregnancy to be hidden? Has this ever happened to you? I'm curious. Let's talk about this a little bit more. So this meteorologist experience really kind of brought up this broader discussion about scrutiny of people when they're pregnant. Like, this is just a natural thing we go through, and a lot of people do it. It's in the workplace, and I don't know why someone would feel it was a distraction or offensive, or that tight-fitting clothing was somehow inappropriate with a baby bump. I'm curious if any of you have ever encountered this or what your 2 cents is about it. I actually had kind of an opposite experience when I was interviewing people for my book, Go Ask Your Mothers. There was a mom that I interviewed that said she had a positive experience about her maternity wear, and let me tell you about that. So in the interview, she told me that she, as she got like larger in her pregnancy, started to revert from professional clothes more into like just comfortable things, sweatsuits, stretchy pants, things that obviously like worked better for her. But in her admission, it may have pulled back a bit from what the dress code or expectation of professionalism was in the office. And her manager actually pulled her in and talked to her about this. And I thought this was really interesting because this is not where I thought this conversation was going to go. I thought she was going to be deeply offended. She was actually really appreciative of how the manager brought up the topic, apparently saying something to the effect of, we still need to kind of meet the polish that's expected because we have client-facing, meetings and interactions with people. And let me show you some examples of some like really cute maternity wear that's affordable, that would fit in this workplace. And that particular mom told me she was really grateful for the guidance. It was her first pregnancy, and she kind of needed that little bit of oomph and support to feel better about her body and to do step it up in terms of her professional attire in the workplace. But I feel like it could go either way. Would you want your manager commenting on this? Do you think it's their place? Is it appropriate? Is it appropriate just in general to comment about professional attire and dress code? And what about maternity wear specifically? And what do you think about this meteorologist who actually had people trolling her for wearing a tight-fitting dress with a baby bump on air? At the end of the day, I think it's kind of somewhat to each their own. I think the fact that this mom felt empowered by her manager and so supported in communication is just amazing. On the flip side, like people trolling people for how they look, particularly in pregnancy or in about anything regarding weight and women's bodies, no, not going to have it. Don't think it's appropriate. All right, I think at the end of the day, this comes down to bodily autonomy and stop criticizing women's bodies. I think in the case of the meteorologist, being asked to hide a bump, woefully inappropriate. Never. In the case of the interviewee in my book who felt supported by her boss saying that it's great that you have a baby bump, you just need to polish it up a little in this particular workplace, I could see where that might be appropriate, especially if there's a dress code. But touchy subject, and whenever we talk about people's bodies in the workplace, we're definitely opening a can of worms. So on to the next segment. Mom's gone viral. What have we seen out there that is interesting going on in the world? I loved and found super fascinating this reel in TikTok that went viral, millions and millions of views, from a group of doctors who said never would they ever do X, and I'll share some of them with you, as doctors in regard to their own kids. Fascinating. I tuned into this. A pediatric anesthesiologist and a gastroenterologist, pediatricians, all sorts of doctors. They said things like choking hazards. They would always cut up their grapes. Button batteries. They would never let their kids have access. Very controversial one. One of the doctors said she would never let her child have a sleepover. There were some obvious things like riding ATVs, but I would also say that one of the ones that came up was trampolines, which, I mean, like every house in this block has a trampoline. I'm really curious if you have any never would you ever and what your reaction is to what the doctor said. I will post this up on my Instagram channels, the viral reel. I'll repost it there. So if you haven't seen it, you can tap in. So go take a look at Sarah Wells Bags or Go Ask Your Mothers and comment there or text me into the show and let me know what your never would you ever, and let me share a couple of mine. So popcorn totally freaks me out. I'm kind of in the camp of the whole choking thing. I let my kids have popcorn. We eat popcorn at the theater. We get popcorn at home, but I'm just kind of a nervous wreck about popcorn. And I'm always saying, like, do not lay down while you eat that popcorn. And like, I won't let them eat popcorn outside of my sight. So, you know, for instance, I am at the point now where my older daughter is able to be home for periods of time alone. And I'm like, no popcorn while we're gone. So the choking thing kind of freaks me out. I'm with the doctors on that. The one that is my true, never would I ever, 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 my non-negotiable is helmets. And you might just say, obviously, Sarah, people have to wear helmets. But we all know there are times where kids like pop on their scooter or whatever it is for a few minutes and they don't have their helmet on. But no. And let me tell you why. I have a very specific reason. Years ago, my mom and dad and I were with the kids driving back from the pool here in our community. And we were coming down a hill and a couple of cars ahead of us, a car got in a crash with someone on a bike. This was an adult on a bike. And just to alleviate your concerns, they ended up being all right. But their helmet went full on with that car, smashed into a million pieces all over the road, flew off their head, all of it. And their head was perfectly fine. I saw that all happen right in front of me. Nothing more than that kind of visual will drive home for you what would have happened if there had not been a helmet there. So my never would I ever is I would never, ever, ever let my kids get on anything moving like a bike, a scooter, whatever it is, without a helmet. Non-negotiable. So the never, ever, ever would you ever do with your kids kind of got me thinking about what are some of the things you should do. And so in Mom Hacks and Facts this week, I'm bringing to you a couple of my absolute must-do as a parent. And first is the ever controversial but all-important Nature Pee. Let's talk about the Nature Pee. Yes, they make all sorts of incredible car potties, and you should have one. I completely subscribe to that, but the children will get too large for the car potty at some point. And you may be in a situation where you forgot the car potty or you're in someone else's car. The Nature Pee is an essential part of living. And let me tell you, during the pandemic, we used that Nature Pee all the time. I was so glad my kids could do that effectively without making a gigantic mess because there were no restrooms open on the side of the road or we couldn't go in. And I have a hysterical story for you. One time we were effectively doing the Nature Pee in some really rural area off of a dirt road. And I was like down there helping one of my kids finish up. And as we looked up and stood up, an entire herd of miniature horses were galloping toward us. And I think we both like fell over in the dirt, the clean part of the dirt, don't worry, and laughed hysterically. And to this day, we talk about our Nature Pee with a herd of sort of fairy unicorn looking miniature ponies. I mean, right, all the moms listening with little tiny babies. Woo! My next one is don't ever forget the backup outfit. Again, so obvious, but we're operating on very little sleep. And sometimes you go through the outfit that's in the diaper bag and don't remember to replace it. Do not leave home without the extra change of clothes. Ideally, a change of clothes for the baby and a change of clothes for you. But at least for the baby, let me tell you about what happened at 30,000 feet when I didn't have that change with a breastfed baby. So my Maddie was, I don't know, 6-8 months, something like that. We were flying a very long flight, I believe to Canada at the time from the East Coast. And what happened? She had a massive blowout all the way up the back. Like, I think it was into the sleeves, essentially. I had to change her in one of those like ridiculously small trifold door plane bathrooms. It was so awful. I could not redeem those clothes. She had like I think a long sleeve onesie with little pull-up pants over it. And I had to toss the whole thing into the garbage can. Like I wasn't even going to put that in a plastic bag back in my diaper bag. It was just too far gone. So it went in the trash. And I'm sitting there, I got the clean diaper on her. Of course, I had the diapers. And I'm thinking, all right, so we're going to put the new outfit on her. I like wiped her down with some wipes. We're going to make this. We're going to survive this experience. And I did not have a backup outfit. Like nothing. No little shirt, no little onesie, no pants, not a swaddle, not nothing. So I had to ask a flight attendant. I got one of those like really sort of cheapo navy blue plain blankets, and I essentially made her like a little burrito in the rest of the flight in a plain blanket in her diaper. And I felt like a terrible mother, even though I know I'm not. I felt awful, but at least I guess she was warm, but it was a disaster. And I will never again, not even with my older children. Like if we're going somewhere on a long car ride, I'll even bring extra outfits in the back of the car, because why not? You never know when you might just spill a whole bottle of water on yourself in the car. That happens. Or someone has some sort of accident or gets sick or whatever the issue is. Always have the spare outfit. So never would I ever leave home without the spare clothes. Episode tried to keep it a little lighter, talking about some of the funnier parts of parenting. I really would love to hear from you. Tell me some of your never would you ever, or some of your hacks, things you can't live without. I also just love your opinion on this whole bump fashion, hiding the bump in the workplace. Is that appropriate or not? What do we all expect around that issue? So comment here, comment on Sarah Wells Bags, or go ask your mothers on Instagram. Thank you so much for being with me again. I'm going to go pop a few more cough drops, maybe try to get 15 minutes of a nap and get over the latest cold that I have acquired from my germy children. And I will see you all next week.
That's a wrap for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in to Go Ask Your Mothers. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe so you never miss what's next, and share it with a mom who could use a little encouragement. Follow me on Instagram at Sarah Wells Bags for breastfeeding tips, and at Go Ask Your Mothers for working mom life and more. Remember, you're doing better than you think, and you're stronger than you know. Until next time, you've got this, and I've got your back.